God, I'm hoarse from talking to everybody.
Yeah.
Ready? Yep. Okay. All right, I am going to call the June 25th Moab City Council regular meeting to order at 6:03 p.m. And we start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Colin Fryer is going to lead us in the pledge this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Colin. All right. Next up, we have public comments. And just for your rules, our ground rules for public comments, you have 3 minutes to speak. Summer has a timer, so when the timer goes off, your time is up. Council generally will not respond to your comments, so please feel free to let us know what your concerns are. And so I'm going to start with you, Colin. Are you ready? Do you want me to wait?
Yeah.
You're ready to go? Okay, you're up.
First.
Yep.
Well, we've already had some discussion. I think everybody knows that I'm here because I'm opposed to the tax increase that's been talked about. I'm afraid, and the way it's being presented to me is that you all have already made up your mind. I think you've made up your mind and that maybe this is just a public relations exercise. I hope that's not true. I hope that you're going to hear what the citizens have to say and consider what they have to say and understand that the taxes keep going up, the expenses keep going up, and we're concerned that sometimes you're not trying to economize. I know I only have 3 minutes, so I'll go quick. One of the reasons I'm against it is I think our revenue is pretty much at an all-time high. So you're getting revenue from various sources that has more than been around for a long time. Also, the population base of the city hasn't really significantly changed in 20 years. So you're spending the money on about the same amount of people. And I don't believe that you've done everything you can to examine the departments and the expenses and try to find ways to economize. Finally, there are huge opportunities to consolidate services with the county. And as my good friend Jason has pointed out, and Jolette, that's not an easy thing to do, to consolidate with the county. Everybody wants to maintain their power. However, I'd like to see some people try as hard to get along as they are trying hard just to get more taxes. There's a huge opportunity to save $2 or $3 million if we consolidate law enforcement. There's an opportunity to save $1 million or $2 million if you consolidated planning and zoning. Those are two real easy things. It doesn't make very much common sense to most of us to have two sets of law enforcement that are within 2 blocks of each other that are oftentimes patrolling the same area, that use the same jail and use some of the same services already. But the taxpayers are asked to fit the bill for that. And I know we need to be making the same appeal to the county, but you brought the subject up, and so you're the ones that are going to be held accountable to it. And I'm going to try my best to make sure that that doesn't happen unless Jolette changes my mind. I'm a reasonable person. She said that she's going to go to work and find out why that you need the money and have you really done everything you can to economize. And if that should happen, I'd be glad to talk. And I want you all to know it's not a personal thing, but we just had a big property tax with the county last year. And if you want affordable housing, the last thing you need to do is be raising the taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Please, no applause. Okay, I mean, you already applauded, so just don't do it again. Okay, thank you. All right, next we have the Taylor family who wants to come and talk to us about the flood. And so I've given the family all 3 minutes, so there's 3 minutes for each family member. So we'll start with Dawn.
Thanks, council, for being able to give public comment. And yes, I'm Don Taylor, and my brother Kelly and I own the property between Fifth West and Shields Lane along the creek. And it's obviously been damaged several times with the floods. And to start, I just want to say I sympathize, because I remember a couple of years ago when that first flood came, I said, well, thank goodness we're not going to see another one of those for 100 years. But boy, was I wrong. And we're seeing it region-wide with, well-established roads in Zion Park getting washed out, and homes falling into the Virgin River. So I think it's something we're going to see more of. And then the other point is Moab continues to grow, as Colin was just pointing out. And that's more asphalt, more roofs, more impervious surfaces, more runoff that's got to go to the creeks and make it to the river somehow. It just seems that on the east side of Main Street, we've got some pretty significant flood protection infrastructure, but from the west side of Main Street down to Fifth West, there's hardly any. And the channel has gotten really plugged with debris. We've got bridges and tunnels. Seems to be a lack of clearance under Fifth West. And so we continue to, see damage to the property down there on the west side of town. Moab's going to keep growing, as I was saying, and I think we need to look at improving the flood prevention infrastructure down on that west side of town. And I know we're all, or at least I am, very tired of the 3 or 4 weeks of political commercials where building a wall was a big topic. But I think that's kind of what we need to look at here, as a retention wall going down the south, or on the west side of the creek, to help protect those properties from these floods. And as you're probably aware too, there's a lot of trespassing and privacy issues down there too. And a nice retention wall would certainly help that also. So look forward to hopefully working with the city to see some improvements made. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Heather? You guys.
I won't do that.
Thanks, Heather.
I won't do that.
Dawn, I know that you were just giving me a hard time.
My name's Heather Taylor. I think I've met most of all of you, and I just want to start by saying thank you to those that were able to come down to the property with us and do a little tour and kind of see the mess we're living in again. We really do appreciate you guys taking the time. And I know we have plans to meet with those that haven't been able to do that yet. This is the 5th time we've had this sort of mess. And if you've been on our property or maybe seen some of the pictures online, it is kind of hard to even explain or put into words. It's 3 feet of mud and even higher water that came slamming straight into the east side of my home. We fought in 2018 for that bridge that caused all of this. The bridge just below 100 West. It's the second bridge, flat top bridge. We've been asking since 2018 for that bridge to be removed. We've been pretty vocal. We've spoke to your city engineers a lot in the last 2 years and haven't been heard. And as I went through my emails again today, it brings all those emotions right back to the surface that have kind of settled down, but I'm feeling them kind of a lot tonight. The last emails I sent said, we are very concerned this is going to happen again. And it just did. And so our ask is that we already had Michael and Mark come on a Sunday, take out the lower bridge that plugged up this time. Debris was left in that bridge from 2 years ago. 2 huge trees were left in that bridge. We passed the pictures and the facts along. it wasn't heard. They were left. That bridge plugged this time. That bridge has been removed, but however, the bridge higher, that's the flat top bridge, is still in place. And our ask is that that bridge be taken out immediately. I wish it was taken out Sunday while they had the equipment there. We're economical people. We don't want to see you spend money unnecessarily. And it feels like we're spending money unnecessarily, moving back and forth and back and forth. And we were just there. We could have taken those out. And as we sit right now, we've been told by the engineers, we are not protected. We are not safe. The patch they have done in the creek bed will not hold. So every rainstorm, and as you know, there's rainstorms all week. I want you guys to, I'm goosebumps because I'm scared. So please do something. Thank you, Heather.
Mike, please no clapping. Please don't do this. Don't make me have to have the police do something. Okay, Mike Taylor.
Hello, thank you for hearing every one of us, and you're probably gonna hear a lot of the same things over and over and over again. I'm gonna try to focus on the safety side of the aspect, not only for just my own family, but my parents' family. I'm talking about the whole communities. If it wouldn't have been for the diversions that we did at our expense on our own property, that flood may have very well landed in the parking lot of the hospital. You can, and when you come down, some of you have come down, thank you for that, but when the rest of you do come down, I can take you and show you personally how that water flew and flowed down, over, hit our diversions, and it returned back to the direction it went. So if it wouldn't have been for those, that hospital may have been flooded. It still made it to the condos backyards on Williams Way. So I want the community to understand that there is that big of a risk of the hospital being flooded. And I hope every one of you understand what that would mean to this community. And secondly, I want to talk about the safety aspect of trespassers. Okay. We have had, I mean, it's been a nonstop fight with trespassing for the last 15 years plus. We call the police department when we see them. Sometimes we hear something back. Most of the time we don't. I get it. By the time the police get there, they're long gone. You can't find anything down there. So, but now especially things are opened up, everybody's coming, and they see our yards. That's the way out. That's the way they come. 2 days ago, my wife was threatened, called the cops. We never heard a thing. She's been talking to dispatch and the police chief today, and we're hopefully getting that some support from the police department. But as a council, I'm asking you to force the issue with the police department too, because we do not feel safe down there whatsoever. That's all the time I'm going to take. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Steve.
I'm Dee Taylor. I want to thank you, the ones that came down and helped us feed the thirsty mosquitoes down there. So anyway, I kind of want to talk about the history of what's got us to this point. There's been some talk about the hospital, the condos, the Williams Way. The history of that was when the original Elk Mountain Mission came here to the first effort to settle this valley. And it didn't work. They got ran out, but they didn't turn the ditch off before they left, because they left in a hurry. But it created basically a third creek channel through most of the town. But then it was filled in and built upon. The Williams Way Street is on top of about 20 feet of fill. The condos are right on the edge of that. And there's two reasons this is important. Once they filled that arroyo up, we always called it the arroyo when we were growing up. It's no longer there to help drain the valley. It used to drain a lot of the east side of the valley. It's not available for that anymore. So now Mill Creek has to pick up that, which, I mean, historically it did, but that was before there was a city here. And then the second issue, which has been mentioned, but I'm not sure fully addressed, is that if the flood gets over to that fill, the Arroyo may come back. This is fairly recent fill. It could take out that road, and downhill from that road is our hospital. And that's, could very easily close our hospital, and that'd be a major impact on the whole community. Next, the Civilian Conservation Corps came in and built rock gabions in that creek to stabilize the creek channel. It worked great. It's raised the creek channel. When I was a kid, you used to run on those rock gabions down there like highways because they weren't growing trees and stuff up through them. They were 2 to 3 feet above ground, 2 to 3 feet wide. Now you can't see any of those. They're buried under the mud in there. So that creek channel has raised that much in those years. Of course, it didn't help that the Russian olive and tamarisk have moved in and plugged up a lot of the creek channel. Also didn't help that a lot of people in town have used the creek as a dump. A lot of everything from old cars to yard waste that goes in there. Why that's all important is the creek is being asked to do a lot more work,
Keep going.
and it's being plugged up by all this stuff, so it can't do its work. We need to clean the creek channel out.
Thank you. Tammy.
I kind of wrote this down so I get it quick. I am Tammy Taylor. I have lived in Moab all my life. I am the 6th generation, and my kids are the 8th generation to live on this property. We built our home there 47 years ago, so I have seen lots of floods, and my grandparents told of lots of floods in the past. Flooding has never happened on this property. Flooding was limited to the creek channel. Our house is at 280 West Center, where Mill Creek and Pack Creek come together in behind, it's right behind our house. It is the drainage for all of Moab. Flooding in my house has never happened until these previous 2 years. And the difference is the city stops maintaining the flood channel. It shifted their focus to maintaining walkways, pathways, bridges over our main draining of all of Moab. The city of Moab needs to decide what is priority. Better flood damage, drainage, or another walkway. We can't have both. It's dangerous. This has always been Moab's flood drain. Better drainage needs to be a priority for flooding is a routine. Homeowners and business deserve better. It's obvious we have a flooding problem. Drainage is the problem. The walkway, the bridges need to be removed. Creeks need to be maintained and widened for our drainage. Get the shit out of the creek. Let's have draining for Moab. If you want to work with us, we want to work with you. But we're really, really tired of getting all the floods of Moab in our yard at our expense. And I hope you can help. I hope you can take this community's help, and we want the best for the whole town. It's not just us. We realize that. But thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I don't have any other sign-ins, So I'm gonna go ahead and close the public comment section of our meeting. Our next update is from Levi on the flood from the Public Works. He's gonna give us an update on what he's been working on. You guys are welcome to ask Levi questions. What's his stuff?
When I'm done. Should keep it. So just short on the storm, we have an area we didn't realize we had a problem up above Dogwood. Mark Beecham and I are looking into it, see exactly what happened. We had a large amount of debris come down Dogwood. It's usually typically coming down the highway. It was combined, but we had a lot come down Dogwood. There was some down Aspen, and then it flooded Cane Creek. During the night of the storm, crews went out immediately, started cleaning storm drains, and then we had to shut down Cane Creek because it flooded. And then it blocked off Cane Creek, so we had crews out there immediately removing debris from Cane Creek. It's cleared. Cane Creek is restored. On Saturday, we went down to the creek and immediately started working on the banks of Mill Creek. There's 4 bridges on Mill Creek from 100 West. You got the one at the Gonzo, the one you can see from the Zach's parking lot, the one at the confluence where you can't see, and then the 4th one is right there at 5th West where you can see from the 5th West Bridge. There wasn't any debris at Gonzo for the 2nd bridge. There was debris at the 4th. It was plugged up, so we removed all the debris from it first thing. And then we moved upstream just below the Gonzo and started doing, restoring the bank where the water started. So as soon as the water exited the Gonzo Bridge, it fanned out from there. It jumped the banks and just carved new paths around the bridges. So we're working, we have crews down there now, still restoring those. They'll be down there until we're satisfied with that. At the same time, we have a 2nd crew gathering sediment and hauling down to the Mill Creek area so we can use it for fill. We have leftover riprap up on Aggie from the 400 East project that we're hauling down to reinforce those banks. After the next step from there, 100 East, we've carved up a path for Emory and for the solid waste service district for the trash cans, but it's still not passable and the path is closed there. We'll continue getting sediment from 300 South as the property owners and business owners collect it, dump it on the street. We'll be gathering it and hauling it off. And our main focus is dumping it right there on 100 West. After we have all the piles cleaned up, we'll get the sweeper out and we'll start sweeping the streets and then gathering more debris. So here soon, there's gonna be a lot of dust in town. We could wet it down, but it takes 10 times as long. Once it's wet, it just turns into mud. So we ask that we be patient with the sand and the dust. Any questions?
Questions?
Levi, how significant were the impacts to the Cane Creek construction?
Significant. With the construction, we have socks around the storm drains, so that helped plug up the storm drains so they didn't flow. The water collected on Cane Creek and didn't drain in the drains or flow. There's a drain system that runs in front of the workforce services through the public works shop yard and then to the creek. It didn't flow at all. Ended up on the road overflowing into public works, and it flowed through our public works shop. Didn't cause any damage other than a lot of cleanup. We were able to respond quickly, but it clogged up our storm drains up there, so we'll have to flush those, but throughout the Cane Creek project. Answer your question. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, do you know like what the final like CFS was We heard any reports on that?
My understanding, it's similar to 22. The only difference was there wasn't the same amount of debris. And so it still highlighted that 300 South Bridge, that box culvert is an issue. It didn't clog, but it still overflowed. It came close to overflowing at Main Street. With the one in 22, it plugged off one Gonzo End all the way down, all those bridges. And it carved a path around those bridges. This year, there wasn't any debris until that third bridge. In 22, we restored the banks immediately west of the Gonzo, and they didn't hold. When the creek jumped, those banks immediately after Gonzo, like I said, it just carved away. But the debris wasn't the issue this time. It was just a similar 5,000 CFS estimated. Yeah.
And it normally is running at like 5 to 10.
Right. So like the bridge that like the Taylors are talking about, you know, and stuff, have we done any assessments on that bridge so far?
Yeah, we moved all the debris and we pulled that bridge.
You pulled it?
The confluence, the small one,
Small one, the
yeah,
one
that's
above.
on Pack
Yep.
Creek.
Not the.
The one at the Gonzo, there wasn't any damage to it. The next one down, you can see from Zach's parking lot, there wasn't any damage to it. There wasn't any debris clogging, but it did carve away around the abutments. So we finished removing the abutments until we can further assess what we need to do there to help water flow.
Right. Anybody else? So Levi, I know that you guys have been working on 500 West Bridge. Is that all? You have to start over? Before the flood, you guys went
Down by the
there,
path.
yeah, you were cleaning it out, you were doing all kinds of work.
Yeah, Breeze crew the parks and the streets, spent a lot of time down there. They recently, this last fall, finished, just barely recovered from 22, and you can't tell that they were down there.
That's what I
Yeah, the concrete's gone in some places. It's 3 feet under sediment in others.
Right.
There's a lot of sediment that we'll have to remove underneath the footpath, not the creek path, but the footpath area of that bridge too.
So my understanding is that a lot of the work you guys did was if we get another flood, and I'm looking at black clouds right now, that hopefully the work that you did will prepare for us so that the damage won't be as bad. But there's no guarantee.
No guarantee.
Depends on, the intensity of the rainstorm, how long it lasts, all those kind of things.
Yeah. We're hauling in large amounts of riprap to help reinforce those banks. So that should help.
I just kind of feel like the bigger picture is that to get the community behind is that we've been having these 2 flash flood events last 2 years that are 5,000 CFS, you know, with, like you said, a creek that's usually at 10 or 20 CFS. And it's a huge deal to know or to prepare for that in the future. And it's going to take, I don't know, it's a lot of like, it's gonna take it's a big project I think that it's gonna be pretty time consuming if the plan is, and I kind of feel like it should be to create something that'll hold a 5,000 CFS event, you know, and what that's gonna look like, you know, that's pretty
Well,
huge.
Well, I think if you all recall, and maybe Colin and Caitlin weren't here, but the previous engineer said the only way to manage it is detention ponds up above the power dam.
Yeah.
That would collect the water and the debris before it came down into the creek.
And you couldn't find those places to put those, like it was pretty.
No, they found them. It
But-
just would be very expensive and very challenging because we're talking about all kinds of.
Right.
Well, and we're talking about
multiple different agencies. I mean, we have to go up as far as we can go, and we're talking Forest Service, BLM, county. I agree, it's just a huge project. It's not, we can't just fix what's in town.
Right, but this is the new reality.
Yeah.
I think we're facing that
absolutely.
this is the new reality of, it's a big deal. And it's gonna be like an epic thing to pull it off. But we need to kind of, So anyway, that's kind of, I just feel like, I think that the residents need to know that the council is taking this serious, and it's taken us a while just to get past the last one.
Right.
And we need to kind of work towards the future.
Yeah, I think I kind of share a concern with that, where if the frequency of these, like once in a, I know it's not supposed to be once in a century, it's like a 1% chance of it happening. But if they are going to become much more frequent, which seems to be the pattern that we're seeing across like the world, that if we're dealing with incidents where like we're not even done finishing cleaning before the next one comes, it just feels like we're being pushed into a perpetual game of catch up where we'll never really fall further and further behind. And like that only is going to come at the expense of like our residents and their private property. And then like, is that the most like efficient use of funds to basically keep putting band-aids on things? So yeah, thank you for all of the work that you guys are being forced to do again.
Sure.
And for working overtime on the weekends and everything like that. Extremely appreciated, but I think ultimately it's conversations that we're going to have to see what we can do to obviously not completely eliminate that things are going to keep coming, but what can we do to make it a little more manageable or make it safer for the community? So
Yeah, one thing we found out, well, it's nothing new, but we're seriously undermanned. It takes us months to recuperate from, to bounce back from this kind of event. But we don't have the equipment to manage the event either. Do want to mention immediately, after this event, Saturday, we reached out to a local contractor and had him come out to help bridge that gap, with the larger piece of equipment and the manpower to help us get to where we need to be. So, yeah.
And we understand too, Levi, that when you're focusing on this, other things get left. And so it's, yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna take some time to get everything taken care of. And if we're doing this, what aren't we doing? So ask our citizens to be patient.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Levi.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, we do have a lot to talk about when it comes to this kind of event. So next up, we have Michael. He's going to talk to us about a couple projects that you guys are aware of, the downtown master planning project and the zoning title project.
All right, thank you. Let me just bring up this. Okay, so I just got a few updates. I'll go pretty quick. I can get the slide to move. Okay, so I wanted to update you first on the zoning title. You awarded the contract in January of this year. We are moving forward on that. The contractor has been to town. They have worked with us and our staff and have met with some of you to talk about zoning issues and to talk about what to focus on as we're going forward. The main focus of this update is simply to update it, not to change the code a great deal, but to make it more user-friendly and to update it to the current state regulations that we need to be following. Consultants done a lot of work. They are drafting at this time. It looks like this fall, around October, we'll start to be going to the Planning Commission. After the Planning Commission, will be coming to the City Council. The City Council will review every one of these ordinances, as they're all ordinances and they're all legislative. You would be the body to approve or deny those. So that's the update on that. Just want to give a quick update so you realize that is still going on. Any questions? Okay. So the downtown master plan is also continuing to move forward. Well, I should take that back. The downtown master plan hasn't technically started yet. But we have established the funding for the downtown master plan through a CIB grant, which is $50,000, and then also through the Moab General Fund. There was a road safety assessment that was completed by UDOT. Obviously, it wasn't just UDOT. All of us participated in that as well. They published a study or some findings from that with recommendations. We've been going over that. There's a lot of really good information in there. And we're kind of moving towards proposing a demonstration project for Main Street this fall. We will be working on an RFP later this year, but I do want to just, as far as work goes and workload and everything, and obviously emergencies take precedence. And this was one of the projects that could be delayed a little bit as we look to make plans and engineer and try to resolve issues with our rising floodplain. So.
Questions for Michael? Thank you. Thanks, Michael.
You bet.
All
I
right.
think I'm gonna stay here.
Oh, you might as well. Okay, we've got two items on our consent agenda. Item 4.1, approval of the minutes from the June 11th regular meeting and approval of the bills against the city of Moab in the amount of $712,589.90. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Caitlin, second.
I'll second.
Second by Luke. Discussion, Caitlin?
I just had a minor correction to the minutes, that Kate Jagla was also, speaking on behalf of the Moab Free Clinic in addition to Norm Taylor. And that it was for the LGBTQIA, Community Coalition. It's a formal group, that the Free Health Clinic is working on. That's it.
Luke? Anybody else?
No.
All in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next, general business. First item of consideration is item 5.1, consideration of the approval of Form PT 693 tax rate summary. This is just a form that we have to submit to the county so that the property tax is on the statements that go out in August. This is not, doesn't mean that we're approving the tax. It just is a formality that we have to do to get it on the tax statements for the residents so they know what the increase is going to be. You guys will make that decision on August 6th. So
So it's the truth in taxation.
that's
what
when,
goes out.
yeah,
That's
it'll
what this
it'll
is.
go out before that.
Yeah.
But it's just a form, and you guys just need to approve that form so that we can get it on step. Do I have a motion to approve Form PT 693?
I'll make a motion to approve Form PT 693 tax rate summary.
Motion by Jason, second.
I can second that.
Second by Colin. Discussion, Jason.
No, I just want to say that I appreciate everybody coming tonight to talk about this. This is not a decision. It's just, and I want to talk more to everybody who had concerns about this, and because I thought there were some very good points that were brought up. So,
Colin?
Just echo that, great conversation tonight. More conversations are coming. So.
Anybody else? All in favor of the motion? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next item, this is a roll call vote. Item 5.2, consideration of approval of chip seal change order for Mill Creek Drive. Michael?
Okay. So you should have got a lot of information in your packet about this chip seal change order. The idea, you had somebody present to you not too long ago who asked what's the logic behind chip seals? And there was some good information that was brought up, and I was asked to look into chip seal versus mill and overlay. And let me just get this pure. So with the engineering department, we went back and looked at this information and we found obviously a chip seal and a mill and overlay are different. Sorry. And there's a big difference in cost as well, but there's also a big difference in the amount of or the quality of the project when it's finished. As you recall, we went through the chip seal and it didn't take because there was some issue with oils and or something else, and we were going to redo that project coming up this year. So in looking at this, we were able to get a bid from the contractor who was supposed to do the chip seal to do generally the same area. They would credit us for work that's already been done, about $91,000, which I think is very fair. The total additional cost to the city would be $978,000. The project already has a fund of $113,000 to finish the chip seal. That could be applied to the project. So that means that the additional funds that we need to come up with is $864,000. Now, this is a longer term project. The surface would be much different when it's finished. We've talked to the contractors. They think that the result would be very good with the 1.5 inch fill of asphalt. And part of that has to do with the fact that previously there was a highway at that location. There's a lot of base and along Mill Creek and things like that. They feel pretty confident that we'll be able to get a really good product with this. The total increase of the change order, though, is $978,000. That's just what the change order is going to be. When you apply those funds of $113,000, then the city has to come up with the additional $864,000. We're recommending that we do go forward with this. We think it would be a much better product for the city. We also think it's a much more appropriate product for an urban area. And of course, we live in a rural area, but when you get into town, we really are in an urban area. There's a lot of traffic that travels these streets. In fact, anecdotally, I don't have the data, but anecdotally, that intersection at Mill Creek and Fourth East is probably the busiest local intersection in town, with people traveling, avoiding Main Street, going out to Spanish Valley or just out south of town. So we do think this would be a much better project. The price is big, but the fees or the cost would come from the general CIP budget and Class C road funds. Class C road funds that we do already receive. And the project could begin the first week of August this year, and it would be a 6-week project to complete.
Questions for Michael?
Michael, I'm very supportive of this. I excited, new day of not just putting Band-Aids on these things. And I think that ultimately there could possibly be a significant cost savings in doing this right this time. So thank you very much for your research on this.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. And I think it's important to note that how this came about was one of our constituents came to the mayor and to Michael with not necessarily a plan, but professional opinion. And it made sense to all of us. So we ask you to go ahead and do this research. So thank you for this. And I agree with Colin. It's probably a much better product that we will end up with and a much better result.
Any other questions?
Yeah, are we concerned or have any concerns about like what's underneath the asphalt, like as far as water, sewer? Are we feeling good about that?
At this point, there was a lot of work that was done previously. That's one of the reasons why the chip seal was being done, is because there was so much work that was done previously. There is no plan at this point to add to this project to do anything more than has already been done. This would just be the mill and the overlay.
Okay, yeah, I'm just concerned that like 5 years from now, like the clay pipes are
Yeah.
gonna break, or there's no clay pipes or brick, whatever.
Well, that hasn't been evaluated with this, but that's something that we can evaluate. We can talk to OB, we can get some more information, but for the most part, there's been a lot of work done to replace a lot of infrastructure under Mill Creek as it is.
Well, and on
Water was replaced last year, city water, and WISA replaced their sewer.
Okay. Oh, perfect.
So just to repeat that, the city water lines were replaced last year and the sewer through Glissa was replaced within the last 3 or 4 years. That's great.
Okay.
The other thing worth pointing out is this isn't a full reconstruction like we are seeing on Cane Creek. So we're not going down so deep that we would
Yeah.
get to a lot of that.
I know,
anyway.
I'm
is
just
good.
concerned that there's these rotting pipes, and we
Yeah.
do, this mill and fill, or whatever. And a year from now, these pipes collapse, or something like that, or we have issues, then we're digging it back up again and, and stuff. So that's my concern. But no, I think this is great.
Cool. I had a question. So was the original chip seal project like reduced in cost? Because I saw that the original contract was $346,997. So I guess I'm just like wondering where that difference of $142,000 is.
Well, that's, Mark, do you have an idea of what that is? Oh, you can come up here. Mark's, just for the record, Mark's
So,
our city engineering lead.
so there were some costs that are just already expended. So one of the big things that we did there was, as a part of the chip seal, we went in and did patching and more or less, I hate to say rebuilt, but we did a lot of work at the Murphy intersection there. So that extra cost there that you're seeing was spent on something that we actually got there. So.
It's the same footprint?
Yeah, so generally speaking, we're talking about the same footprint. We are looking at starting at Powerhouse Lane instead of going all the way up to where it started before near Pack Creek. So the reason why we want to do that is because we want to come down a little bit further on 4th East. There's a need to look at some crosswalks in that area. And we'd like to get the new asphalt down to that area for that. There's also other things. There's also an option where the road is actually doing really well and is holding up pretty good with the chip seal that was done, the good parts, where there could be a slurry seal that's done as part of that, instead of going in and completely doing a mill and overlay. But the idea is to start at Powerhouse, come down to 4th East on Mill Creek, and then from 3rd South to the high school.
All right, do I have a motion?
I can move to approve the increase in scope and cost for the Mill Creek Drive and 400 East resurfacing project as described in the staff report and authorize the mayor to sign the amended contract with LeGrand Johnson with a not to exceed amount of $978,471.50.
Second.
Second.
Second by Caitlin. Discussion, Tawny.
No.
Caitlin?
Nope.
Anybody else? Roll call. Tawny.
Aye.
Caitlin?
Hi.
Colin?
Aye.
Luke?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next up, consideration of approval of amendment for Blue Bison Cane Creek Holdings Development Agreement to increase the maximum height from 30 feet to 35 feet. There are some minor changes to the agreement than the one that was in your packet. Michael is gonna just let you know what those changes are. Nothing substantive, nothing major. And we also have the applicant here on Zoom if you need any questions, but I think this is pretty straightforward. I know you guys have had conversations. So Michael?
Okay, so really quickly, there is a current development agreement. The development agreement states that the developer is able to, it's actually usually an entitlement, where the zoning freezes basically at the time that the development agreement was approved. In this case, in a lot of cases, that's good because as zoning moves forward, a lot of times it gets more restrictive. In this case, there was an allowance to go from 30 feet maximum height when the development agreement was approved to the new zone at 35 feet. We have talked to the developer quite a bit. They think that this is something that would help them get the project moving forward. And you could actually see this project move forward if they were able to get this. The fact is that if somebody in the same zone was doing the same type of development, based on the new code, they would already be entitled to this 35 feet today. So it's not something that is not available to others already. It's pretty standard. So we are recommending approval of this. This is the only thing we're recommending approval of changing in the development agreement as far as the substance goes. There are some things that our attorney has noted that he'd like to see changed as far as housekeeping goes in the agreement. The first is section 4, and this is where it says that you do have to, the developer has to follow the R3 zone as it was adopted when the development agreement was signed. However, there is an exception for height where they can go to a maximum height of 35 feet. The next section that would change is vested rights. And this is just saying that except the vested rights are as it was approved when this was signed, except as provided in section 4, which we just talked about. And then the attorneys would also like us to change section 14. This is actually very simple. This allows an email notice to go out instead of having to mail hard copies of changes and things like that. So we can actually legally communicate with the developer via email as opposed to through snail mail. Like the mayor said, there are a couple of changes from the document that I submitted with the staff report. I have hard copies here if you'd like to see them. They are very simple. There are no substantive changes. The first one is just stating that after the development agreement was approved, the city council amended the height limitations in the R3 zone. The second one is that the date was added of the executed agreement 25th day of June 2024 if this gets approved. And the third thing was that it was originally written so that an ordinance would have had to been adopted at the same time, but the attorneys are stating that a motion by the council is effective to change or to amend this development agreement. There were a couple of other little super minor things as far as filling in Kaysville. Kaysville was in, but not Utah, things like that. And then adding the email address and the manager of the LLC's name where they will be signing. Those are the only changes. So we're recommending approval of this. And
Questions for Michael? Motion.
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the proposed development agreement between the city of Moab and King Creek Holdings to allow an increase as presented in the staff report.
Second.
I'll second.
Motion by Jason, second by Luke. Discussion, Jason?
No, I just think this makes sense and hopefully it'll help get this project off the ground and going.
Luke,
Yeah, just echoing Jason's sentiments.
anybody else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Grudgingly. Motion passes 5-0, and hopefully the developer can move forward and be happy. Okay, that's it for our general business. Now we have city manager update.
Good evening. Just a couple of things, really one thing related to the flooding, just, the questions have come up about insurance claims. Actively, we'll be pursuing those, of
Oh.
course, if we have.
I'm sorry, I missed something.
Yeah, do we have?
Yeah,
Addendum?
sorry.
What happened?
Can I cut you off?
That's
really
fine.
quick? When
Yeah.
you said flooding, it reminded me, I have to, I have something.
Oh,
to-
that's right, yeah.
So that,
Just an
sorry,
addendum.
we did not end our general business. We had one more item, item 5.4. It was an addendum. It came out yesterday. So I apologize for the confusion. Consideration of proposed resolution 18/2024, resolution waiving building service fees and floodplain development permit fees for construction activities needed to recover from the June 21st, 2024 flooding. This applies to anybody that needs to do some work. They get their permit fees waived. Do I have a motion? Or questions? Any questions?
I just have a general question of, what kind of things this would apply for? Like as property owners are evaluating what's going on their properties, what kind of things should they be looking for to come in and contact the city for this?
Yeah, I mean, building permits are required for pretty specific things, and the list is probably longer than most people on a daily basis would know. So I would just encourage people who have damage that they're dealing with on their properties, even if it's, like a ramada or something, it's particularly if it's in any way attached to the home structure itself or the commercial structure itself, even if it's just like a shade structure, something like that. You know, typically those do require building inspections and therefore and building permits to deal with. So, you know, so it will just be a case by case assessment, but, we hope that by, also having this waiving process in place, that it encourages people to come in and, not be reticent to, see if they need to get a building permit to do what they need to do.
Thanks.
Sure.
Any other questions? Motion.
I move to adopt resolution 18-2024, resolution waiving building permit and floodplain development permit fees for properties impacted by the flooding within the city of Moab.
I'll second that.
Motion by Jason, second by Colin. Discussion, Jason.
No.
Colin?
No, something simple we can do to help, people.
Okay. Anybody else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, David.
Okay, quick updates from me. One, pursuing insurance insurance claim process actively already. We're tracking our hours through special coding for staff time and obviously equipment use and that kind of thing. So we'll be doing it as we did before with regard to filing insurance claims to be reimbursed, hopefully for as much as we can for damages and for time and expenses related to this last event. Second thing is you may all be aware, but I want to re-emphasize that the Utah Department of Transportation Commission will be meeting this Friday down at Hideout in Monticello. They don't always get to come over and hang out in our neck of the woods. If there's any way you can be there, I highly encourage it. FaceTime with this commission is always valuable. They are the decision makers for funding for UDOT, and that is no small thing. So the more they know you and the more you're able to communicate with them, absolutely the better for the long-term relationship with the city. So, and then the third thing is that as part of the trash and recycling process with the change in rates and the change in responsibilities, the city actually is going to go through or open up what we call kind of the open enrollment period for people to decide if they want to change their frequency of service or their size of can in the month of July. So we'll still manage that on our end as part of the transition process, but we'll get it all dialed out and then hand it over to the special service district after any changes come about in July. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
it. Sure.
Okay. Council reports. We'll start with you, Luke.
So
No, you've been very busy.
yes, hopefully a little less.
Doing well.
So at the local homeless council, we had a special presentation from somebody from Weber County to discuss their different programming attempts at assisting people being released from jail to avoid homelessness and transition into the community a bit more smoothly, to kind of gain some inspiration for our community. So we had some extra attendees, like representatives from the recovery clinic at the hospital, USARA, and I think the hospital has received funding in the past from grants to assist with programming like this, and I think they're applying for more to continue to identify better ways to kind of help some of our community members retransition back into the community and avoid homelessness, so that they put less of a strain on social services and ideally have a bit more solid footing to kind of rebuild back upon. Our planning commission meeting really kind of only involved a minor subdivision approval, so there wasn't too much to it. I was unable to make the GWISA meeting this past Thursday. I had a meeting with the mayor and a council member, and then I attended the property tax open house today. And I would also like to thank everybody who came out and participated. Got some really good feedback today, and hopefully the beginning of some like good ongoing conversations. But that is about it.
Thanks, Luke. Caitlin.
I had a couple of meetings with the mayor. One was to talk more specifically about housing. that was very kind and met with certain people to talk more about some of their housing programs that can specifically support Walnut Lane residents. And so I've passed that along to some of our service providers who have been assisting with that, and kind of talking about how I can be a mediator to help improve those programs because they're underutilized in our area. I also had a general check-in meeting with the mayor and Tawny, where we talked about lots of things. And yeah, met with the Taylors last night on their property. Thank you for having us out. I have mosquitoes all over my hands. And then I also met kind of last minute with Kara Downwind with Rim to Rim today, just to kind of hear some of the response and analysis that they've been working on, and kind of starting to talk about next steps moving forward. Yeah, and thank you all for coming to the property tax open house and coming to speak tonight. Just also want to say a big thank you to Public Works and city staff, the entire emergency response team, everyone that's been working over the last, 72 hours or so on flood response. I know it's a big lift every time, and on the whole was really impressed with some of the improvements that were made with emergency communications compared to the last flood. So thanks.
Connie. Okay, I'm writing quick. Okay. I attended a Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District meeting. It was just a general business meeting, but we also discussed our scope and what we see as the actual mission of that special service district. We didn't come to any earth-shattering conclusions, except we thought we were doing pretty well with what our charter said, but we really see that there is a lot more area for that special service district to improve just all of healthcare in Grand County. On last Thursday, I met with Mark and Bree and had a tour of our parks and trails, and kind of saw the nightmare on 400 North, that is the MREC. It was very eye-opening and extremely informative. I honestly didn't understand the complicated nature of running a municipal pool. If you guys haven't been, it's pretty impressive. And they're doing a yeoman's work with, as Levi said, not enough personnel. We went also to Old City Park and to Rotary Park, and the improvements that we've made out there are, they aren't the things that are visible. I think the things that are visible are going to come to fruition. Mark has named the ducks. So, and we also went to Rotary Park, but I have to comment, while we were at City Park, when you can see the whole valley from that perspective, there is so much good that is being done on just the housing front, the overall improvement of our community. There's a lot of good work being done in this community by a lot of good people that you have to see from a certain perspective. I also met with the mayor and Caitlin just for general check-in. And I do want to mention that if anybody in the county has flood damage, there is kind of a clearinghouse website on the Grand County Emergency Management page of the Grand County website. In the bottom left-hand corner, there is a tab that says flood damage reports. And if you just, it's a fillable form. There's places for pictures if fields aren't applicable, but that is how Grand County Emergency Management has opted to field these, because in the past we just relied on phone calls and messages and things fell through the cracks. So we're hoping that this will streamline that process. And if it's something as simple as needing some fill for a driveway or something like that, you can use that that reporting form. That's it. Jason.
So I had a meeting with the mayor. Just a general check-in. I attended the parks and pool tour, which, yeah, like everyone else, I learned a lot and learned that there's definitely some priorities that need to be made with our pool. And then I attended the tax meeting tonight, and other than that, was a pretty quiet week for me. Part of my report, I'd like to say congratulations to Luke for his big week, getting married. You know, looks like a load's been taken off his shoulders. I don't know if the wedding's over. If there's the Kaya said yes, one of the two. But congratulations. It was, happy for you. So anyway, that's all I have.
Quick.
Colin.
Okay. On the 17th, I met with the mayor. And then on the 18th, we had the first of this Healthy Communities Organization meeting, where a bunch of the relevant organizations in this community are going to work on a healthy community certification, and more importantly, really identifying what in our community we're doing really well and where our areas are that we can be improving in terms of things like mental health access and active living and access to healthy foods, things like that. So look forward to seeing where that goes. On the 19th, I had a solid waste meeting where the ILA that we had already approved has been approved. And the solid waste department is now working on the monumental task of taking on thousands of new customers as it transitions over to it. So it's going to be a really challenging couple of months for solid waste as they come back up to speed. And then on the 20th, I had my MRAC tour. And yeah, it was just very, very eye-opening to see that the condition that our beloved pool is in just from years of neglect. And so I look forward to coming up with a plan or seeing a plan come up with to really address a lot of those issues. And then I'd just like to say that Trail Mix is sponsoring a parkway cleanup on Monday from 4:30 to 7:30, meeting at the Bike Skills Park at the junction off First East. And yeah, we'll be clearing debris and trying to help out a little bit and see if we can make a little bit of difference.
What was that time again?
Monday, 4:30 to 7:30. Expect to see you there. That's it.
Thank you all. For me, I just want to ask, David brought up the Transportation Commission on Friday. Who is planning to go?
Good times.
And, you know, I'm not going to be able to go. I have another commitment with the police department.
Is it this Friday? Next Friday?
That's this Friday.
I can't.
I might be able to.
I wouldn't mind going. I just don't want to go alone.
Well,
I can move my calendar, see if I can figure some stuff out.
Okay. We'll be in touch.
all right, very good.
If you twisted my arm super hard, I could move some things around and make it work, but at this point, I'm not planning on.
Yeah, David is correct. It is a very important opportunity for us to express our needs that we need from UDOT. This Transportation Commission is the funding source for UDOT. And of course, you know, you heard downtown plan. We did the road safety audit. A lot of work that we would like UDOT to kind of expedite for us. I think the commission needs to hear that. Also, the light at Aggie Boulevard is a big priority of ours. We're getting a little pushback from UDOT on that. I think that's something the commission should also be aware of. So I really hope that you guys, a couple of you guys can make it down there to at least make those comments. I don't, know that you need to stay for the whole meeting, but it's always good to get to know those guys so they know that we're paying attention. Okay. So hopefully you two can go. All right. I also was in the Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District. One of those things that happened in the meeting was EMS came to us because they're having some cash flow problems, and the district agreed to give the EMS district a loan to help get you out of that situation. So I know you're on the district board, so that's why I keep looking at you.
I get hurt a lot.
I also met with the National Park Service division chiefs to just kind of build our collaborative relationship with them. The Park Service under the new superintendent Lena Pace is very much wanting to build a community collaboration. So that was the beginning of that process. As Colin mentioned, the USU Extension Office is looking at asking Moab to become a healthy community in Utah. And so to begin that process, I need to write a letter of commitment. So I plan to do that. Followed up with Alexi. Alexi's going to be working with us, Colin, on that. I'm meeting with her on Thursday at 12:30. If you'd like to join us, that would be great. You don't have to though, because I'm just kind of feeling her out and see what she would like to be involved, how she'd like to be involved. And then I have a photo op with Rocky Mountain Power Group. I believe that's who it is, on the fast chargers at Lions Park, to let everybody know that we've got these new chargers. So that's it from me. And we do not have an executive session tonight, so I will ask to adjourn. And just for the public, if any of you all want to go back into the conference room on the other side and review the posters on property tax, we'll stick around for about 30 minutes. So if you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to address those. So I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Tony makes a motion.